Now, you talk about Helene, the devastation that was left by this hurricane. Officials across the Southeast are still working and trying their best to reach communities that have been hit with, really in many cases, unprecedented flooding. Now 121 people confirmed dead across 6 states, and the number keeps rising. It topped 100 earlier today, now up to 121 from what we've been told. Path of destruction reportedly stretching over 600 miles. A former FEMA administrator joins us now, and Craig Fugate. All right, Craig, thank you. What stands out? You've done this so many times, unfortunately, for so many different areas, so many storms, about this particular storm to you.
Well, it reemphasizes with hurricanes, the most deadly part of the storm has not been the winds, it's been the water. And over the last couple of decades, we've actually seen the amount of deaths related to inland flooding becoming one of the leading causes of death. So this hurricane, as most people were focused on the coast, I think the National Hurricane Center and Weather Service is trying to tell people this is going to be a fast-moving storm. It's going to have a lot of impacts to the interior. But the biggest threat was going to be the inland flooding. And unfortunately, that's what played out across parts of the Appalachian.
You don't have as much evacuation in those areas, right? Whereas along the coast, people are ready and they get out. They're told to get out and they do get out. And you don't. And you're saying inland, that's not the case usually.
No, I mean, the hurricane, when we have a coastal impact, we have evacuation zones based upon that forecast. But once you move inland, we're now using tools like our flood warning and flash flood warnings. And what you saw, particularly the areas around Asheville and the Tennessee, was flash flooding. Rain's coming down so fast that those rivers are going immediately into a flood stage, sweeping all the debris with them and scouring the area. And these are extremely dangerous, deadly types of events. And so that you don't really have the ability to say, we're going to do warnings 2 days out like we may with a hurricane. It's only when you get that rain starting and the Weather Service is issuing those flash flood warnings, people literally only have minutes to get to safety. A
lot of these areas, is a good example right now, the one we're showing in Florida. A lot of the videos we have are taken by drone, as you know, and that's how we're able to see the scope of the devastation. That's a good example of it. This one is different because someone's driving along the road. But that's the challenge, right, for FEMA. Here, Treasure Island, because things have receded, you get in. But other places, Asheville, North Carolina, we had a report from this area earlier on the show. If you're FEMA, how do you get in now? What types of challenges, what types of discussions are being had at that level as they try to figure out how to get to people?
Well, the first thing is FEMA's not leading this charge. It's state and local governments. Some of the teams that FEMA has sent in to support, like the urban search and rescue teams, they'll get into those areas, and if need be, we'll use helicopters to fly them in. But by and large, what FEMA is doing is supporting those governors and getting supplies to go in with those state teams. But you've identified probably the biggest challenge. Two things that are really slowing down response in that part of the Carolinas is lack of communication, cell service, and other systems are down, and roads and bridges are destroyed and impassable. And so already, state of North Carolina, they're using National Guard helicopters to fly supplies in and teams into some of these areas. So that's slowing that response down. But again, FEMA supporting the governors. They're not going to be the first ones in there. So people aren't seeing maybe FEMA shirts on the ground. That's generally a couple days after we get through the search and rescue. And then you start seeing FEMA coming in there to help set the stage for recovery.
Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.